So, Patrick, you're starting your own podcast?
I guess so, yeah.
I'm Victor Rogers. You brought me in to help you guys with your marketing for Sterling Lighting, also with Dayloom. I guess we just want the audience to kind of get to know you, Patrick Harders. Like, who are you? Where did you come from? How did you sort of make it on the scene in landscape lighting design? And yeah, so if we can just kind of give the audience that understanding of your background, I think it'd be great for them to hear that story. So, Patrick Harders, who are you?
Well, I grew up in Chicago land area, as you did as well. So obviously from Chicago, you're a Cubs fan.
No, I'm not. White Sox.
Cubs, Bears, all that. You know, loved playing sports, played everything, football, baseball, wrestling. Wrestling was the one I loved and did that throughout high school. Went to school at Eastern Illinois for 2 years and was planning on wrestling and just got sick of cutting weight, you know, and I had to lose 30 pounds. I was just like, I'm done. I'd been doing it since like I was 8 years old, and it ended my wrestling career. I was a chemistry major when I started, but really wasn't serious about school at all. And then funding dried up for me. Grades weren't that good, so I just went to work and thought my college career was done. Ended up working with Cutco. Yeah, I just needed a job, and it was either roofing or selling knives. And I'm like, I think I can make more money selling knives, and I don't have to be up on, I hate the smell of tar anyway, and to be up on rooftops, you know, doing that. So I got into that, and, you know, I actually did well with it, like worked my way up, got promoted, moved to Indiana. Then I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. I was promoted up to a high level, becoming like a division manager, but I decided that I wanted to go back at my degree and went into finance. I just rolled through it the second time. It was like, you know, it was myself and like 5 kids in the library that were all like brainiacs, and went through, got my finance degree and graduated. But when I went back, one of the big things I needed was income. So I went to a friend, Tom Fenig, kind of a friend of a friend, a girl I dated a long time ago was his babysitter. And so I had talked to him, and he had always brought up the idea of me doing lighting. He started Outdoor Lighting Perspectives, the whole franchise system. And he's like, and I didn't know what outdoor lighting was. I'm like, why are you putting lights on the front of the home? Don't the coach lights do that? Like, people pay you for this. And then we went out a couple of nights and I saw it. So then finally I'm like, hey, I quit my job. I enrolled back in school. You've been asking me for 3 years, like, to come work for you and do nighttime demos. And he said, yeah, sounds great, but I don't have any openings. So I was like, great, what do I do now? And then a month later, you know, Tom Van Tom calls me up. He's like, you want to come work for me? I'm like, I just asked you a month ago. And then he's like, let's start doing demos. And real quick, you know, if you know anything, like if you've been in lighting at all and someone's willing to take demos from you, you give them away. So he's like, how many nights a week can you go out? I'm like, 6, give me one night off. So, you know, we found Sunday night was like the best night for closing and everything, but it's usually Sunday night through Friday night. I was out doing a demo each night for him, and quickly just rose up in the rankings in his company to becoming a designer. And, you know, I say quote designer, it was, you know, 16 lights all the time. Like my demo kit he gave me was 12 up lights, 2 path lights. And I would just sneak into the shed where he kept all the lights, and I'd always take like 2 or 3 extra 12s, and I built up like 25, 30 lights for the demo kit. And all of a sudden my sales went, like, back then an average sale was about $2,000. And my sales started getting up about $3,500, $3,700. And he figured out that I increased my demo kit and was able to show more. So I had gotten a lot of experience. I'm indebted to him. He got my foundation, you know, helped me understand the business side of things. And in 2001, I graduated from school, and I looked at all the different banks to go work with, you know, as a finance. I hate finance now, but Bank of America, Wachovia, you know, all the banks that were First Union, I think, was all in Charlotte. And I remember interviewing for the job at one of the banks, and they're like, this would be your cubicle, which is inside of a huge building. And they're like, after 1 year, after 6 months, you do everything right, you get a promotion, you could decorate your cubicle. And at that point, I'm already outside. I saw the excitement that lighting created, and I liked it a lot. And so I talked to Tom, like, if I decide to go into landscape lighting for my career, like, what would it take? And so he got me started at a choice of down in Naples, Florida, Arizona, Richmond, Virginia, and then I kept looking at Northern Virginia.
So what, to be a franchise of his?
Yeah, to be a franchise of his. So took a lot of selling on my part, but I'm like, I want to take over Northern Virginia. They had a location up there that was faltering. And so I wanted to go up there, clean it up, and build up the business. The demographics were great. Naples is beautiful, but everybody's in their 80s, so I'd be the youngest one there. So, I thought for a place that I'm going to put my permanent roots down, Northern Virginia looks great. The weather's not as bad as Chicago, so yeah, had a lot of advantages. And so I just got started, had no money, and just kind of bootstrapped it all in the way.
So study chemistry, then finance. So how did you know you wanted to like create? I mean, I guess you got to be creative to be a wrestler, right? You got to figure out some creative moves, or what? How did you know like this was a creative, you had a creative mind and this was a great fit for you?
I didn't have, like, I was never the artist. Like, I try and draw something.
Paint by numbers?
Yeah. It bores me. Like that, all of that was very boring for me. I still, putting puzzles together is like, would be the worst thing in the world for me to do. Like that isn't interesting to me at all. And I'm not sure, like I didn't know I was artistic or creative. And I still fought it. I'm like, I'm a guy, I'm not creative and artistic, but there's just something that, lighting was something that just drew me in. And, I started off with the franchise system, and, first year was just trying to figure things out. Like we started off in July, actually on my birthday, I moved up to Northern Virginia, didn't know anyone, had about $1,000 in my pocket, and just bought flyers, started putting out flyers. Took about 3 weeks before we even had a customer call us. So I was just working, trying to make something happen. It finally had our first customers go through, and then 9/11 hit, which if you're in the DC area, that was like everything shut down. So I just finally start getting momentum end of August, going into September. Everything went quiet for about a month, and then everybody started getting back into, normal spending. So we're in November, and I ended up bringing Josh Palmer. Here's my cousin, and his dad called me up, my uncle, and was like, hey, Josh, we're up in the UP. He's working at a mill house, like milling logs, and he's like, I want something better for him. He's like, could he come down? And, it was a culture shock coming from the UP to
Exactly.
Northern Virginia, but he's been with me like, I don't know, 24 years now. But there's two of us just going out, design, sell, demo, like going through it. And I always found the franchise system, like I'm not a good franchisee. Like I'm not.
Because it's what? It's too like boilerplates, kind of, can't be creative, or?
So it was cookie cutter. It was like, let's just get this, like making, cheeseburgers the same way as what they never really did, but that was the idea. And I was always kind of the problem child. Like right away, I think it was Unique Lighting. I started buying that product, and that's when the hub came out and some of the multi-tap transformers. So I started reading Nate Mullen's book, never had met him, but read his books and went through some of experimenting with like, all right, 2003, let's do hub systems, let's go with the multi-tap transformer, get everything perfect. And so a lot of the time was spent like perfecting the installation side and still not really focusing on the design side. From that point, I drove everybody nuts in my
So you're still like trying to figure out the angles, all those nuances in lighting and what could really.
Actually didn't concern myself with it at all. That's why I go back to like a project where it was 2005, and I'm like, we'd get done with the job and we loved it. The customer's gushing over it. And I go back to it like, that's embarrassing that we did it the way we did. And so then I got Jan Moyer's book was another one, and I started opening my eyes a little bit. And then really I think like LED, I saw it coming out. It was one of my customers worked at the Pentagon, and it was about 2006, and he shows me a LED par 36 lamp that they were using in Iraq. And he starts talking to me about it. I'm like, it's using like 5 watts compared to my 35 watts and has multiple input voltage ranges. Now that one was using DC, but I was like, if we could ever get there in lighting, like that changes everything, changes wiring, changes transformer, capacity, all that. So that got my mind going a little bit, and we jumped in right away. When LEDs came out, we just went all in and said, the lights look blue-green half the time. Like we're cheating every way we can just to try and match the look, because halogen was awesome. And we're early on in LEDs, and they all look terrible and they all burned out. But we jumped onto that. But that was I think the big change in the industry that, really opened up the market a lot. A lot of manufacturers never adjusted, still haven't adjusted to, they went from making fixtures and just casing for lights to all of a sudden there isn't a light source out there. So, they're buying a light source from one company, and GE and Philips and the big ones weren't really doing LED at this point. They were holding onto their legacy lighting.
Yeah.
So that's where the opportunities started coming out.
Wow. So you started out, you probably fell down, made some mistakes, kept learning, growing. So take me on that journey, on that path of like your education within the landscape lighting and lighting design. Like you mentioned Jan Moyer and Nate Mullins and some others, but what did it take for you to feel like, okay, this is my calling, so to speak?
I loved the impact we had. I love doing installs because every day you wake up and it's like, how are we going to figure out, to install this project? And we sold it. And there's always that, I find it fun where you've made a promise on what something's going to look like and you're maybe not 100% certain, but then you figure out how to make it work. So putting that together was challenging. The one thing that happened is the franchise system I was part of just was going a completely different direction than I was. So they wanted to be really more making money off service, not focus on design, like speedy lighting. That was Sir Speedy, all this crazy stuff. So 2009, I think Tom, my friend, sold the franchise. It was bought by a big corporation that brought a bunch of brands together. There were no lighting designers, no lighting installers really on their group. It was just a branding mission. And I kept saying, LEDs are coming, how are we going to adjust? And they didn't really have an answer. And I was on the board with them, but they didn't like me. And then one day I got a call to come in and I went and met with them and they basically, pushed me to the point like, we're going to make you do X, 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 and X. Or if you don't, we're going to ban you from lighting. So you can't even work at a Home Depot. You can't work in Canada, Saudi
So you had a
Arabia, Ireland.
non-compete or some sort
Yeah,
like
we had
that? Yeah.
a hardcore non-compete.
Yeah.
So it's 2011. There's always, I tell my people all the time, like the Cortez, gets in a new world and then burns the ship. So I'm like, it was my moment of like, if I'm going to be in lighting, I need to make drastic changes. Because like on my business side, we went up from 0 to 300,000 real quick. And then we went up to 600,000. And I'm like, all right, we're rolling. And then it's like, we're 3 years into it. I'm already doing over 500,000. Like I've made it. We're going to be hitting 1 million soon. Then we're going to go to 2 million. And I just stuck from like 2003 to 2011. I was in the franchise system. I'm doing 600, maybe max out at 800,000 a year, but I could never get my business over that hump. And so, the hard thing is as we're doing that, we're accumulating customers. So service calls are adding up. Products were an issue. So it became very challenging. And now I'm being pushed into like comply with us 100% or you're out of the industry.
Yeah. So what did you do?
I had my best month ever. It was my last month, finish off #1 in the entire franchise and just wrote a letter saying, thank you for your time. I fulfilled my contract. I'm out. Yeah.
Okay.
They were all ready. They like instantly, there's a letter going out to the franchise. Like they're going to destroy me, go after my home, basically said, I'm going to make you homeless. I'm going to destroy you financially, make an example out of Pat Harder's. And they did everything they could. They put, I was told $400,000 to $500,000 in my lawsuit on my non-compete. So it was like 3 years of like not sleeping, lawsuits are terrible. So 3 years of 2011 through 2013, 2.5 years of like couldn't sleep, working like crazy, trying to restart my business again. And then it was that time that we had really started Sterling Lighting.
Yeah.
Finally won the lawsuit, was free after that point. And that's where things changed into 2012 is where I started really learning about design.
That's great. So, yeah, I want to hear the Sterling story. I mean, you've shared it before, but if you can kind of give me a background of like where you were with other luminaires, other fixtures you were using, what really led to the birth of this Sterling Lighting company.
So it's nothing planned out. It kind of happened over time. I was using PM Lighting, which I think they're a good brand. They were stuck in the legacy of they didn't have a light source. There's a company called DG Lighting. I was using their products and I was real excited because they're beautiful. Beautiful lights that cost a lot of money. And the issue I had is I had like 500 of my 700 lights from one of the manufacturers, not PM, that failed. And I was stuck. Like
500 of 700?
Yeah. Wow. 750 and 500 failed in the first year. And they didn't have a warranty on it. Or they had a 20-year warranty, but they just stopped talking to me. So it was like, going through all of that, and that's when I'm still part of the franchise. You know, I was buying, there's a couple companies that are selling lamps, and I just see they're buying them on like Alibaba or something like that, and they buy them for $4 and selling them to me for $39. So I reached out, someone's like, here's a source, reach out, and started talking to some different people overseas that were in the lamp, and that's really what I was just looking for, a lamp to go inside. And then I was reached out by this one girl, Hillary, and she had worked with a trading company, and I didn't know anything about trading and anything. But, you know, when Nate Mullins went to China, and brought products over there, he started one factory and then another factory and another factory. So there's 3 main factories all in southern China. They were making unique fixtures and a lot of other different brands. The non-compete ended, and so they just flooded the market with all these Chinese products.
Oh, okay.
So she worked as a trader, which they're kind of a middle person to connect buyers. And she sent me some products, and I said, I get these products. And the idea, I was talking with Damian Sanchez, good friend of mine. And I said, you know, if we go out and buy, like, let's say we buy a container, and we don't know anything. So we go out and buy 2,000 of these lights. I'll get 3 other lighting companies to go in it with us, and we'll just set up a co-op because, you know, at the time I was spending like $50, $60 just for the uplight fixture without a lamp or anything in it. And I see the same one for like 30. And I'm like, oh, that's just the markup of, you know, some middleman in there. So it's like, if we get it and we do a co-op, then, you know, we could save money and make money in this business. But unfortunately, the people that were doing the co-op with us, just like, they didn't have money, so they didn't pay us. And then they wanted warranties if there was a warranty. And I'm like, we're not set up like that. So, you know, we just decided, like, let's set up something real small. You know, we'll buy products. If somebody else wants to buy it,
Yeah.
they can. You know, we went to China one time. We searched all these different LED companies. So we first sent someone there. Then we searched LED companies. We checked all these lamps.
So they had a variety of different like types and.
Yeah, you go there and it's like one city is all like LED lamp city.
Really?
Just like one place after the next, and they're all just copying each other. So we went with the highest reputation, found the best fixture we could. We put the two together and started Sterling Lighting. And so that was the beginning of it. But what I noticed is in 2011, I'm out of the franchise. We're putting in these lamps that we found. You know, I had to go through UL and get everything approved and do it right. But we started seeing diodes go out. And so it was at that time that Hillary, who's now been with me like 17 years or 16 years, calls me up and she's like, every time you change your product, you know, Alliance gets notified, this company gets notified, like, so all these other manufacturers get tipped off on your designs.
Oh, really? Okay.
Okay. So I was like, you know, we created the slimline light, and then we created a step light. And then I see, like, quickly after that, these other companies have.
Because they're right down the block.
Well, they were at the,
Right.
they were at the same factory at the time. So the factory, I mean, he just cares about selling fixtures.
Right.
So Hillary calls me up and she's like, I quit my job, which is a huge thing over there. And I went, all right, I've got someone I can trust now. And just so happened, my father-in-law was going to a church that there was a gentleman that ran a missionary program in China. And his college roommate was a believer, a fellow, you know, Christian and everything, but he had a quality control company. And so we were able to have Hillary and the quality control company now take our products and start searching for different manufacturers. So we moved everything out of southern China. We found a small little shop that really was not making light fixtures, but shut off for electrical uses. And
In a compound or something?
yeah, in England or in Europe. And so we found our own little mom and pop, you know, that could focus on quality. We're away from everybody else. And also the one thing most people don't know is southern China is all recycled brass. Middle China has bar brass. And so we're able to go with, we could select the brass we want to use, not get like mixtures and everything like that. And we could focus on quality. And then the next step was like, the LED diodes are burning out, so we need to come up with like, how do we solve it? You know, what's causing it? And it was just caused by heat. You know, they didn't like that enclosed fixture.
So you're basically in the chemistry lab,
I know.
right? You're back in chem and actually engineering kind of, yeah.
I found it good to, you know, work with engineers to go, what's causing this problem and how to solve it? And that was just a problem, you know, industry-wise in 2012 and 13, like, if you put an LED lamp in and it got as much life as a halogen, you did well.
Yeah.
But, you know, they came back and it's like, you need metal to metal contact. I'm like, all right. So that's where we started designing, like, if we were to build and incorporate it into the fixture itself, then you're going to get much longer life. It's, drastically different. And all that, those engineers, those are the ones that said, you got to make it a solid fixture, like seal it. We'll put epoxy in it, we'll coat it, it will lock it in. Nobody ever gets inside of it. And that's going to give you your longest life. And I just didn't like the idea of that integrated fixture. And I said, can't we just make plugs on it? Common sense, I guess, is just like, make this real simple. Like, how can we build it? And then from there, once we figured that out, it's like, and I'm just like, my wish list, like, can I make it change the optics? Can I change the brightness levels? Because as a designer, that was going to be really important to me to, if I need to soften it 10% or 20%, I can do that. And so that was, Sterling Lighting started in 2011, had a journey getting up to there, but it's 2013 is where we came out with the SLO1, the SLO7, the SLO4, and started actually building that side of it.
So it sounds like Sterling was started as to answer a lot of problems in the industry. And I know the best companies out there, the ones that not only survive, they thrive, are the ones that are really addressing those needs they hear in the marketplace, but they're also innovating, looking for the next thing, right? And they're not only, so they're solving problems, but they're looking for the next thing. So is that a good, correct characterization of that?
I was just at AOLP and I'm like, there's still so much more of the vision of like the tools we need and everything else. So I remember I had an employee, a really great guy, and he was like, I want us to do like an Apple event every year where it's like, this is the brand new. And I always said, I like Dr. Deming, who helped build up Honda and Toyota, the constant daily improvement. I'm like, if we could just get a little bit better at everything we're doing. And, I've always looked at my own business, the old chain analogy, like weakest link always breaks the chain. So if you take your weaknesses and make them strengths. And so we're always trying to look and see like, what are we doing well? Where's our weak point that we need to improve upon most? And then, how can we keep making it better and better? And it's not like I'll see a lot of companies that say, hey, we invested this much in a product and we're going to keep this product for the next 12 years and maximize profits on it. And, I want to have something that it's special. There you go. Like somebody thought about this, crafted it and made it. And, for our time when we were doing what we were doing, it like is a classical product, something that just stands the test of time, that looks great, performs.
Yeah, and from what I've heard, you have customers calling you saying, oh man, I wish I had this in the field. If it could only do this. So tell me about some of those conversations and how that's really kind of upped Sterling's game. And
we've had a lot. We've had employees come to me and say, I've got an idea. Andy Schwindler at where was it? I think it was at our event, came to me, is like, I want a little product made. We get the request all the time. I do like an open table, just every other week or so, just so people come in if there's issues out there to notify me and come, straight to me about it. But, a lot of times the time spent on like, could you make X for me? And we're not really set up to just do like one custom light for someone. Like there's, that's not our business model, but there are a lot of times the best ideas are going to come from users, like people that are out there in the field. And
you're in the field with them, so you know exactly what they're talking about.
I trust my own mind a lot on that. I'll usually wait till I get pretty far along the process and then show people what I'm doing, like people that I work with and respect a lot. But I know I'm out, actually 2 nights ago, it was 10:30 at night, and I'm out at my barn putting up different lights and seeing like different optics on them. And it's just the weirdo in me to go, I trust myself because I put a lot of work into like, trying to perfect and make it look the way I want it to look.
So if you can, just walk me through like a design, redesign kind of process. What does that look like, and who's involved in that?
So for the fixtures?
For the fixtures, it's
usually what I'm doing is, I'm looking at...
Is there a napkin?
Yeah, there's a lot of time. It's scribbles, it's napkins. I've had people be like, are you doing CAD? I'm like, no, I'm conceptual. So I'll see like where, a lot of times it comes from like, I'm out on a design and I'm like, I just need this.
Yeah.
And so that's where a lot of the ideas come from. Or I see something that kind of looks inspiring. I've seen, European products. I've seen things that other people might be doing and saying like, this could be made better if it was done this way. And I'm always doing that with our own product line as well. making different, adjustments, and what if we were to make a change and, take the SL19 and make it a path light, things like that. So, but on the process itself, I'm usually drawing it out and describing it, and maybe even doing a mock-up, taking products and making it, and showcasing it. And then from there, I give it to the engineers who draw it out, and we build it from that point. And then engineers give me a prototype, I test it, we then go back and forth. And we've had the American engineers, we've had overseas engineers, all with very similar system of, product design. Usually we're starting with concepts drawings, or, sometimes just making a product like real rough, just coming up with like what I want to see, it built out. From that, my engineers are going to put it into CAD so I could see that concept. We'll look to see how it's going together. Then from that point, we build a prototype, bring the prototype in. Josh, who has been with me for 23 years, and Andy, they'll look at the product with me as well and, field test it. I'll go out at night, in my yard and test it. And a lot of times I bring toys and stuff either on our, round table meetings, or when we're doing, have an event, AOLP or our event, I'll showcase like, what's in the laboratory, what am I working on? But then once we get to the next level, there's an entire process going through from ETL to all the certifications, the testing of the light. So that's where I get bored to death, and Damien jumps in. And
So it's not just a mold and then click a button, right? No, it's a lot that goes into this.
I think we estimate like every product that I design will cost us about $60,000 to bring to market, before like not getting even into like inventory on it.
So you got to have a real justification for this product, like to release it. It's a lot of risk you're taking.
Where people are like, just make this. Or I had somebody come to me one time, he's like, I like to make my own private label line, like 23 fixtures, and I'm like, that's like a $3 million investment. So like, to do it right. But there's an entire process and protocols. And then we have just like, all right, on the design, is it, where are the weak points in it? What, so we're always like testing. We have Tracy back at our office, my brother Steve, he's actually is a chemist. He works on the big lighting lab that we have down in Danville. And then we have the coating process, materials we're going to use. So there's a lot that goes into building products, and it's, even more so now where we're different stainless steel to, different materials and different coatings and everything. So,
So in every step of that process, you've had a layer, you've had somebody to kind of check some boxes here and there. But what's the whole experience been like up to this point? Like you starting in China, and I know you've probably made a few mistakes here and there, but what have you learned from it all?
For me, it's kind of like living the dream. It's just so, I didn't think I would ever go up to a high level, and I never even thought about it in the early stages of like high level design. And, to have honed skills and worked with some of the best lighting designers, and to really try and operate at a high level, and be thought of in that category is humbling. But then on the other side is like, I got this whole other thing that I do that's like trying to build the very best product in the world. So it's kind of, I'm excited going to work every day. It's like a kid in a candy shop, where it's like, because I'm naturally a little ADHD, where I bounce. If you're ever around me, I'm usually sitting for a very short period of time before I go to the next thing. So I like having like 3 or 4 projects going, and I could go to one, come back to the other, go back. And so, using my weaknesses as a strength, I guess. And, but it is fun. I enjoy the creative side. I see the same creativity in lighting design as I see in product design, as I see in like trying to build a business. They're all different ways of coming up with a creative solution.
So you've created this great company, Sterling Lighting, that's really part of Dayloom's designs, your designs. So what has the introduction of these luminaires, these fixtures, done really for your designs?
So I think it's definitely given me an advantage. Part of it is just quality of light, and I talk about that all the time. I also, starting going back to like the struggle story, 2003 to 2011, I was stuck at the same level. Then I was in a lawsuit for 2.5 years, got my freedom. I knew I was right on the whole issue, and we went through. But then when I got my freedom, and then Sterling Lighting really came out with like their serviceable integrated category of lighting, my business started to grow. So 2013, I saw growth. 2014, we have Andy working with me, Josh working with me, Karen came in managing the office and started growing. And we went from 600,000, finally broke $1 million. And then we went to like 1.8, 2 million, and then, got up to 3 million. So, financially, I saw a lot of growth. I saw our company get to levels that, I never dreamt of 15 years earlier. And the other thing is just on the design side to, see some of our projects recognized. And a lot of times when I go to events, everyone likes to be put in categories like you're a manufacturer. And I'm like, but I'm a designer. I was on the board of directors at Illy. And they're like, you can't be a mentor. Which for me, I was like, why? They're like, you're not a designer. I'm like, I am going out every single day. But because I'm a manufacturer, I couldn't do it. So I always have just my competitive nature chip on my shoulder. So I'm like, I am a designer and I'm going to prove it.
And here we have the proof, right? So,
and that was one of the exciting ones when we entered in the Lit Awards and, they had the decade of Lit, LIT. And
so tell me what LIT is, first of all. And what
it's an international design awards.
in the lighting industry, the awards that are out there.
So it's a big one. Like, it's really, you have some of the greatest lighting designers from around the world that are involved in it. And we entered in, didn't think anything would happen. And then all of a sudden I got notification from my wife. She's like, hey, you won 2 Lit Awards. I'm like, oh, and she's like, I'm reading through this and this is their decade event. And they had the best projects of the decade. And your Willing Warriors project was voted as one of the top 20 lighting projects internationally for the decade.
Wow.
I'm like, wow, that's a cool honor, I guess. I'm like, great. And so she's like, the awards are in Greece this year. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, I'm not going. There's no way. But then, of course, she was like, we're going to Greece.
We're going to Greece. Yeah, exactly.
So we went to Greece, brought the family. It was a once-in-a-lifetime event. I got to meet great lighting designers, became really good friends with Alpha Theater, Deco.
So it's like the Academy Awards of lighting.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we're at the Acropolis. And I had people going like, that's not that big of an award. I'm like, I'm here at the Acropolis. We were at the museum and they were hanging my projects here at the Museum of Diane. Kid from Chicago who doesn't think himself as an artist, more of a wrestler, all of a sudden I'm here at seeing my projects awarded, my kids get to see it. So it was a big honor. I was very happy with that. And, I think that was one of the ones that established like who we are.
Yeah, you really made your mark in this industry. I mean, you've really already carved, I think, a legacy, obviously, with starting a whole new line for other lighting designers. It's quite a story. Let me just tell you that. And few could imagine like being at the pinnacle of their profession. And I think you've pretty much, achieved a lot of what others might be dreaming of, just starting out in an industry, in their own industry, whatever industry they're in. But yeah, if you want to just talk to the new guy, maybe who's just kind of starting out, what does it take to like be maybe a lighting designer and then a great lighting designer? What would you say?
At first, I've always had the attitude like my feelings it could go away at any second. Like we could do something, screw something up, so I don't feel like I've come anywhere near where I want to go. We've got our certifications, we've done all of that stuff, but there's still so much more to accomplish that I feel I'm still looking way up to the mountains where I want to go. But I think the big thing is, it's easy to see somebody that's been doing it for 20, 30 years and go like, that person just knows everything or whatever. It's hard work is your greatest ally. And it's like, you could accomplish anything. It's mindset, it's hard work and working smart, like going through and continuing to learn and, learn from others. You don't have to pioneer every mistake on your own. You could ask other people for help, but there really isn't anything holding us back. Like I think even in our industry, we focus too much on landscape lighting and not just, outdoor lighting design or just lighting design in general. So we're pushing on that to say like, I see this industry really growing. I see the professionalism growing. The analogy that I heard years ago was a landscape architect said in the 1950s, it was like good old boys, tractors, moving rocks. And if you told somebody you're a landscape architect, everybody laughed like, what do you mean you architect the landscape? Like, doesn't now it's like, everybody knows landscape architects and what they do and the scale of their projects. Lighting designer, 20, 30 years ago was unheard of. Theatrical lighting and some interior lighting designers. Now it's becoming more mainstay in landscape lighting, and even smaller subset of that is something that I see continuing to progress. And
Yeah.
so, I would encourage anybody, like, we don't know where we're going to be in 20 years or 30 years. I didn't know where, for me, I'm stuck in a franchise, thought I was like out of the industry, and, got at other plans. So it's just kind of pushing through, taking steps of faith. And I think there are going to be much greater lighting designers than me coming down in the future. We look back 20 years at our lighting design. Over the next 20 years, we're going to see more and more evolution, more and more tools coming out. So, I think the designs are going to blow away what we're doing now. We just want to have, for those of us who are in the industry right now and are kind of looking at like, what are we doing next 20 years? Like, we're creating legacy projects that are classical, that can stand the test of time, that people can look at and say, I get what they were doing. This is artistic, it's beautiful. But I think there's going to be more tools, more design training, and things that people are going to get even better at this art form.
Yeah, because every project's different, right? It's not a commodity.
Yeah.
It's not what some of those other industries might have as just a linear kind of A B kind of thing. And the awards that you've won. I mean, 2 AOLP awards this year. All the awards you've won over the years for AOLP. I mean, is pretty impressive, I would have to say. And it's exciting to see, like you said, the industry growing and all the peers kind of being a part of that and helping each other. It was great to be at AOLP and seeing all the designers kind of just helping each other, feeling like we're a close-knit community.
Yeah, it definitely is. Tons of great people, and it's great to go to those events and, spend time just hanging out, and people that have a same crazy passion to go like, I can make the outdoors look beautiful with lighting. And, I think my grandfather would be like shocked that I got like, he wanted me like business, chemistry, like take over a big corporation, and the food industry, like solid plan that like in the 50s, that's what everybody did. So to go into like, I want to go into an artistic platform. I will say, like, I think one of the great things about lighting that's different, like when you go to like irrigation, it has 3 irrigation companies. You choose your irrigation company, there's a way to do it. We fought as, I think artists in lighting is to not commoditize things. Like, I don't want to have 2 brands to choose from that haven't come up with something creative in 20 years. So I think that's one thing that's great about lighting is so many of the other designers out there have said like, hey, I'm willing to invest in a smaller company like a Sterling Lighting. We're not the behemoth, like one of the big brands. I'd probably say their name gets sued. But we're not one of the big brands out there. We're a smaller company, but we have a different focus. And I think as long as that can stay in the industry and we don't commoditize the design, we don't commoditize the product, the artistic side of it can prevail. And, that's really where so much of the fun happens.
Because the artistic side, that's the value, right?
Yeah.
That's the value for the homeowner. They're like, I trust you. You know what you're doing. So for the new guys that are starting out, I mean, that is where you're going to make a difference, right?
Yeah, I had somebody who came out of the stone industry or masonry work, and he's like, I don't know, I don't like being called a lighting designer. He's like, it's just not tough. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, lighting designers get paid a lot more than lighting installers. And so it's like, are you a lighting designer or are you just the installer? Because, I know if you can create something out of nothing and make it magical, it's much different than going, I could throw 16 fixtures around these trees and I'm sure it'll look pretty good, So there is something to, people are willing to pay for artistry. It's true in interior design, like somebody that's creative that builds a space and you go, I never would have seen that. And that's interesting because like we all look at the world differently. And, there are people out there that, they match color, they see something like a vision for something that nobody else can see. So a lot of times in lighting design, we take for granted, like, I think everybody looks like, I walk up to every house I see now and I just picture exactly how it's going to look at night. And it's a quick process. My mind just naturally goes there. I'm like, everybody thinks like that. And it's like, most people don't even notice that there's lighting there. They just notice if it feels welcoming or it doesn't feel welcoming, but they don't notice that it's the lighting that's making them feel welcome.
It's pretty cool to be sort of you're commissioned, basically, right? You're an artist. You're being commissioned by this homeowner who entrusts you with their home, the beautification of their home. I mean, yeah, what does that feel like?
It's good and bad, like, because there's so many times that I'm like, I just want to do the lighting. Like, and I've told customers, like, I really want to do this lighting. Like, I'd like to make money on it. But, you know, my excitement isn't really, like, I don't really get overly excited just by like, hey, the check went in. I have to hire somebody else that's like, we got paid today. Like, because to me, that's like the boring part of it, the whole process. Probably a reason why I didn't go through finance. Like, this is not inspiring. Like, can you get more money in your bank account? It is, but it's not. But I think the inspiring side of it is like when a customer trusts you. And, you know, most customers, it's always a balance. Like, there's very rare that someone's like, here's my checkbook, just go have fun. Like, I trust you, you're not gonna take advantage, like, just go. It takes time to build trust. And even at that, it's real money. You work hard for your money. So like, people don't just give it away. But when you do get that opportunity that someone's like, okay, I'll let you try this, you know, and we've had 3 projects recently that are all from like 1700s, 1800s. And when you get the opportunity to work on a home like that, you know, there's so much value in it. You know, like George Washington sat in this room and his army held a church service here going, I can't just like throw stuff up and like put some lights here and there. It's like, no, I've got to pay honor to what the project is.
Yeah, so close this episode out, getting to know Patrick Harder's here, LC. You've said getting into this industry is not for everyone.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, what does somebody need to have in order for them to really make it in this industry, to really leave their mark as a lighting designer, as a landscape lighting expert?
I think it takes a lot of skill sets. You know, you have to be good with people. I'd start off with humility and integrity are like your best friends. Like, if you could walk through this industry and have integrity and have humility. So, you know, we are just putting lights on, you know, we're making a beautiful space, but my ego shouldn't be that huge. Like, you know, put things in perspective of what we're doing. And I think we're doing something pretty amazing. But then it's like being able to work with customers, being able to make wise decisions, surround yourself around the right people that are going to pick up for your weaknesses. I have a ton of weaknesses in business and, you know, life, whatever.
So mentors
mentors are great, you know, having mentors around, you know, creating a team, all of that's, you know, really important. The guys that are encouraging me the most right now are the ones that go in and, you know, say they do Italy. I was just talking with Colton up in Canada, and he went to Italy and then he went to work with Jim Ply for 2 weeks in his winter break. And I'm like, if I could have done that my first 8 months of working in lighting is, you know, take the hardest lighting design training course and then go pick one of the top 10.
That's dedication.
Yeah. But most people will never do that. I've seen people that are 30 years in the industry and they've never gone back, never looked at another artist's like perspective. Just, you know, got tunnel vision and said, this is the way to do it. You know, and then just have passion for learning, for, you know, building something, like, and inspire others around you so that they come alongside to build your vision of what you want your lighting destiny to become.
And everyone's different. Everyone learns differently. So you get to create really your own learning library, learning way that you're going to learn this industry. But I guess it starts with what you just said is commitment, right?
Hard work, grit, determination, all the things that you're told when you're a kid, like how do you win at anything?
Yeah. Well, great. Well, this is great. Excited about the launch of your new podcast, The Lighting Coach. So what are you looking forward to in this?
I think the most fun thing is not talking about me, but really just being able to talk to some of the other lighting people out there on a relaxed platform. So, you know, that's just getting to know their stories, you know, what brought them in, what's giving them passion now. So, and then I want to go outside of, you know, just lighting. So, you know, we're talking about how much correlation between photography and video work and lighting, and like we speak the same language, you know, so bringing in other people and getting their perspective on it. So yeah, just a time, you know, it's all about like talking, getting to know people on a easy platform that is relaxed and
you're helping others, and that's really, really important. So great work. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I know a lot of people are. A lot of people in the industry already are looking forward to it. Have had a presence now and built a reputation in the industry. So it's going to be exciting to hear from you, to put you on in the interview seat, and for you to interview some of these people that may be either pioneers, leaders, up and comers, or these other areas that really help support the business. So it's going to be exciting. So
I'm excited about it. Usually it's just my dog listens to me, so now I'm, yeah.
yeah, well, great. Well, thanks, Patrick. Thanks for giving me this opportunity, and look forward to the next few episodes coming up.
Awesome. Thank you, Victor.
All right.
See ya.